Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Look Forward. I'm your host, Jay. I'm here with my co-host, Brad.
I got to tell you, under the cover of war going on in Eastern Europe, I did not expect like half the Republican Party to just start fucking wilding out because they figured that they wouldn't get to top the headlines too often with all this shit going on. But here we are, not on this show, not in our watch, Jay.
No, absolutely not. Let those people be. Look, they are.
Like I said, we might get the beginning of peace talks in Russia, Ukraine, which is great. And that is the end of our Russia, Ukraine coverage on the show today.
Yeah, because there's so much fucking domestic nonsense going on. Holy shit. It's like, people are dying in a war, and we're like, well, there are more interesting things happening at home. Brad, I've long said, you have long agreed, Andy has long agreed, that it always seemed like Donald Trump read a memoir about Richard Nixon, but read only the beginning and then just closed the book. Like, he just didn't finish it, like, to find out what eventually happened to Richard Nixon.
This is a foolproof plan. I can't believe it didn't work. Everything looked like it's going so well.
End of book.
Yeah.
Donald Trump reads books like Micah watches television shows that he doesn't like. He gets about 20 minutes into it and he goes, all right, I got it. I got the premise. I don't need to see anymore. Got it. I'm done. So there is clear evidence now that Donald Trump had a 7-hour gap in his phone calls on January 6th. And the reason why, of course, I mentioned Richard Nixon is because of the famous, 18 minutes or 8 minutes?
Yes, 18 minutes of missing tape. Yeah.
Missing tape from the Watergate recordings, or his office recordings during Watergate. So, like, Trump is dumb Nixon in a lot of ways. In every way. In every way. But somehow he's able to amplify the insanity that much higher. But luckily for him, he has an entire news channel, or channels at this point, to sort of back him, which is why he's staying afloat.
Before we get into the serious talk about the story, do you think that upon the news of this breaking, that NBC in Washington has like a Beschloss signal that they can like cast into the sky? And like Michael Beschloss was at like a restaurant in DC, and he just like stops mid-sentence, looks outside, he sees the Beschloss signal in the sky, is like, I've got to go. I've got to talk about Nixon. And he like, gets out of his chair.
He's like, they never ask you about anyone else.
Yeah, runs back to his beautifully framed room that got a 10 out of 10 from Room Rater on Twitter.
That's
so
funny.
He can talk about it.
I have to imagine Michael Beschloss is so sick and tired of talking about Richard Nixon at this point.
No, it's his kink. That's what he lives for. He fucking lives for it.
He's like, let me guess. Why are you calling, Rachel Maddow? I know why you're calling. So yeah, it's interesting, right? So a 7-hour window here.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think's happening? Do you think that in that 7 hours he said some wild shit on the phone, or do you think he used other people's phones in that 7-hour gap, or do you think they used burner phones?
Well, first of all,
is the answer yes to all three?
Well, first of all, I think one of the big things is they don't want us to know the complete list of people he was talking to. I think that's first and foremost what we're looking at here. Forget the content of the conversations. Like, they just don't want us to know like who he was on the phone with. Right. Hilariously, Trump like saying he doesn't know the term burner phone was very funny to me. Like, what an insane thing. Like, it's a very common colloquialism in this day and age.
Look, it's
you lived in New York. Like, it's not like this is,
Look,
like
and you're a corrupt piece of shit. Like, you know what a burner phone is. Yeah, when people say they don't know what a like very common thing is, like everyone knows, even if they don't do those crimes, those people are doing those crimes.
Most likely.
Right? It's the worst offense. I don't even know what a burner phone. What's the line from fucking Back to the Future? Is that pornography you're looking at, son? No, I'm underage, sirs. I wouldn't even know what pornography is if I saw it. Right? Like, dude, Biff, you're definitely looking at porn. Like, knock it off.
Yeah.
So it's this idea of like, I don't know what a burner phone is. 100% you use the burner phone, dude. That's all it tells me.
It just doesn't, like, how stupid do you think we are? Like it just so happens like this massive consequential gap of time. Like, oh shoot, we just lost the records for this 7-hour stretch on this consequential day that this guy had nothing to do with.
Right. So the 7-hour gap ran from 11:17 a.m. to 6:54 p.m. on January 6th. That's right in that block of the most important fucking time frame. Like,
if you were investigating like a bank robbery, and it just so happens that like the security camera footage from the time the robbery is committed is disappearing. I don't know. You might suspect someone on the inside of being involved in some way, shape, or form. It seems a bit of a coincidence that would be the case.
Incidentally, if you're going to commit a crime like this, allow me to give you a little crime 101. If you're going to commit a crime like this, get a burner phone. You said burner phone.
Yes.
But have your phone and make normal, regular calls to people from time to time in that block. And then when you're not on the phone, use your fucking burner phone, dum-dum. Like, that's what you do, so it never looks like you have a block of time that's missing.
I was doing regular presidential calls. You can see here, 3 o'clock, talking to Sean Hannity, my good friend, to be on Sean Hannity later. Then I talked to my friend over in Turkey, President Erdogan, great guy, very strong, knows how to deal with a coup, if you know what I'm saying. Like very very where I was looking for advice on how to stop the coup. That's why I called Erdogan.
How do I stop this? How do I give him the old Erdogan? Yeah, so 7 hours. That's incredibly stupid. Incidentally, because I looked this up before, there is a way that if they want to trace burner phones, they can.
Sure.
Right.
If you know the phone. So. Right,
but you can find out. Like, this is the federal government. They can find out where burner phones have been bought all over, like, the tri-state area. Right, like on those dates or whatever, because they have, like, you could go, like, I'm sure you can find every company that sells burner phones to the public in you just search the last 2 weeks before January 6th, right? Because it's probably bought in a couple of days before, like 1 or 2 days. Like, that's how drug deals work. You don't want to be holding one of those things for too long, right? So you got to buy it right then, use it, and fucking get rid of it. So probably search in the last week or two before January 6th and up to January 6th in the tri-state area, dude. It's not that hard. It's the federal government. They have the means to make that happen. Spoiler alert, it's probably not even in the tri-state area. It's probably in D.C. that they bought them. They probably
they're not smart.
They're lazy, dude. They're lazy. They're not driving to Baltimore to buy them. No.
Find some bodega, like, security camera footage. You'll see Stephen Miller, like, walking out with a brown paper bag of, like, 5 cell phones.
Right. Easily. Some fucking intern, right? Yeah. Go buy 12 burner phones. And they would have probably bought them all at the same time. Again, these dudes don't watch The Wire. They don't know that you send one guy to one place, you send another guy to a different place. They just buy 12 of them. Who gives a shit? Search, find that information, and then you can start tracing. Because guess what? You don't, like, those numbers and shit don't come online with no one knowing. Some company has information, some network has information of which numbers are burner phones. Trace them all. Hey, there's a lot of numbers from this weird burner phone going to Tommy Tuberville's phone. I bet that's one of them, right? Like, this shit is not hard. It's cross-reference. I've seen enough television to know this. It's not that difficult. It just takes money and time, right? That's all it does. It takes money and time. But the other thing is, any of the calls, like, they aren't giving up the logs from these times, right? It's not like Trump didn't make calls from his phone. Right. They just don't have the logs. AT&T and Verizon could give you that shit. They can. Like, you're the federal government.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can.
With the president's communications, I don't know about that. I don't know if
Congress could fucking subpoena that. Absolutely, they could. Why not?
Yeah. Who is the White House's phone provider? I wonder.
Let's try T-Mobile. The worst one. They somehow still have a BlackBerry connection. So yeah, I feel like you could get that information if like the Justice Department could get it. Fuck yes, they could.
I mean,
dude, I was just on a jury. I was just on a jury trial, and they got it on a dude who just shot a dude in Baltimore. They were like, "Yo, Verizon, we need that information." Got it. Like, so they could get it if they.
It'd be cool. It'd be cool if DOJ, insinuated that they wanted to do anything about this whole process. Again, I don't need to know what you're doing. I just need to know that you're looking. I know you.
Yeah, that you're doing something.
I get. You can't tell us. So.
Yeah, just like, look, man, we're working. Don't worry about it. We got it. So, 7-hour gap. Again, I think it's a combination of burner phones and Trump using other people's phones and them just not releasing the logs of his phone. Like Bob Woodward mentions, and it's mentioned in this article, that when he met with Trump in during his presidency, he was like, yo, Trump is a phone addict. Like, the idea that Trump wouldn't be making phone calls during the most significant time during a coup is insane. Like, no, dude. It is impossible to believe that this dude would never use the phone during that time. It's impossible to believe that.
Yeah.
Even if it was to, like, check on, like, his kids or his wife or something. Like, maybe not his kids. Ivanka or, like, other people he gives
Ivanka was there. She was in the White House. We know this.
Right. But like maybe a text or whatever, like, oh, what are you wearing? Whatever creep shit he would send her. So, yeah, I mean, so that's a point. Another one that the article makes is, in addition, Rudy Giuliani, John Eastman, and Steve Bannon were reportedly huddled on January 6th in a de facto, quote unquote, command center at the 5-star Willard Hotel in D.C. Trump spoke to them before the log gap, and his strange credulity to believe that he did not talk to them again during the many hours when the calls were not recorded. Agreed. Like, it is unreasonable to believe that he wasn't talking to Bannon and Giuliani at the time, and John Eastman. It is just unbelievable.
These guys are the worst criminals. Like, they're the absolute worst criminals.
They are. And the fact that those particular three guys, were huddled up in a hotel room together, like, that just tells me, like, these dudes were up to some shady shit. Like, Steve Bannon alone is awful enough, like, for that. But to have John Eastman, who was writing bullshit, fake plan legislation, or not legislation, but fake, DOJ documents to try to get this shit overturned in the first place, this guy's huddled up with Steve Bannon, who doesn't work in the administration, along with Rudy Giuliani, who is just his point man for bullshit. Like, nah, man, that's a trifecta of those guys are definitely criminals. Like, yeah, nah. So I'm not buying it, man. I'm not buying it at all. But yeah, it's a huge story. So there is a consciousness of guilt. The person who wrote this article, I want to give their name if I can find it. Dennis Aftergut. What a weird name. He was a federal prosecutor. He's a former federal prosecutor, and he says that one of his favorite jury instructions when the evidence against a white-collar criminal supported it covered something called consciousness of guilt, or mens reas, for the legal eagles out there. Says, quote, if you believe that the defendant sought to conceal evidence, then you may consider this conduct, along with all other evidence, in deciding whether he or she thought they were guilty of a crime charged and was trying to avoid punishment. So basically, the fact that they're trying to conceal it should let you know that they already knew that it was illegal. Thus, they're guilty of something that is illegal. Yeah. Like, you don't skip out 7 hours of phone logs because everything on there is on the up and up. There's no presidential, privilege or anything like that. No, that's not what this is. You're leaving it out because you don't want them to hear what you said and who you said it to, like you said. So go to jail.
It'd be great. It'd be fantastic.
And they also say under, this idea that they didn't have these logs or whatever is kind of also bullshit because it says under the Presidential Records Act, the president has the duty to, quote, take all such steps as may be necessary to assure the activities, deliberations, decisions, and policies that reflect the performance of the president's official and ceremonial duties are adequately documented. 7 hours missed?
Yeah, but you missed the addendum to that law where it says unless you own like a special private resort in Florida, in which case you can fuck off and take all those records down there with you. If you
that are so top secret that we can't even mention what they are
That's right.
in a news article. Crazy. All right, let's move on from there. I was pretty proud of this title that I wrote.
Pretty good.
Put that genie back in the bottle and throw it in the ocean. Ginni being Ginni Thomas. Clarence Thomas's psycho wife, right? Like psycho's the right
She's
word.
crazy.
Okay, all right. So I'm not just I'm not just being a dick. Like she's fucking nuts.
No.
Right?
Like again, she is someone that's been in Republican politics for quite some time.
Yes, she has.
And the things that she's saying, like the text messages that she's sending, the terms that she's using, she's crazy. Like she's full fucking MAGA / like partially Q nutters in this scenario. And she's married to a Supreme Court justice.
That is correct.
Which seems bad. The
idea that they wouldn't have talked the idea that they wouldn't have talked about this shit is ridiculous to believe that. It's ridiculous to believe it.
And again, it just so happens the lone dissent for releasing these records to the January 6th committee is Clarence Thomas.
Is.
What a strange coincidence. Oh, you didn't write it. You didn't actually write a dissent about this ruling. Like you didn't explain.
I wonder why
you were the lone voice. Weird. Very strange. Very strange.
Yeah. Like I know people were just like, oh, well, his wife, okay, she's kind of nutty or whatever. Which I don't know. That's kind of a big deal, but like, it's not that part in and of itself is not a scandal, right? That she's a fucking lunatic.
Yes.
But the fact that he was the lone no vote in having records released to the January 6th committee, which would include her text messages, says a lot.
How about the fact that he didn't bother thinking that it would be appropriate to recuse himself from ruling on this in the off chance that his wife was somehow involved? You're going to tell me that they really don't talk about any of the goings-ons to the point where he's just like, maybe this is a possibility? Now, to be clear, he's not required to recuse himself, which I find incredible. Like, apparently the rules are different for SCOTUS judges than for like
it's
other judge.
Right. It's completely up to them, which is a law that 100% needs to be written, that they fall under the same guise as any other judge. You can't just have people like he could potentially be ruling on a case about his wife.
Yes.
At this point. That's insane. Like, you going to recuse yourself? No. We can't make you. Because the Supreme Court was supposed to be full of people who had actual credibility. Not anymore. It's just a bunch of pubes on a cocaine creeps. Like, it just is. I mean, not all of them.
And again, like, you don't need to prove that Clarence Thomas had any involvement to get his recusal. Like, just the potential appearance of impropriety is usually the standard,
right,
for recusal.
Like there was a time, I cannot remember the case because it was like a fairly like obscure case, but there was a time where Clarence Thomas, and if people remember the case, dude, good on you, but I don't remember, but you can look it up, I'm sure. There was a case where the Supreme Court had to make a judgment or, hear a case that was about a company like doing something like corporate malfeasance or something like that. Clarence Thomas used to work for that company and he still didn't recuse himself. Like, you worked there, dude. Like, no, like, come on, man. Like, is that like you're a former employee there? And he was like, nah, I'm gonna stay on. Surely
Let me guess which way he ruled.
Right. I don't know, but spoilers probably in their favor. But even if he didn't, the point is, like you said, it is even the like the hint of impropriety. Like, you don't want that. You should want the court to feel above all of this shit, not mired in it. Like, that doesn't make any sense. So in this article, they talk about, they have some of the tweets some of the text messages that Ginni Thomas sent to Mark Meadows, right, who is Trump's chief of staff. And this is after the election, Trump has already clearly lost, which is great. But, Ginni Thomas is like fucking foaming at the mouth crazy. I would like to do my impression of Ginni Thomas as I read these.
I already know what this is going to sound like, so
hold on. I need to drink a little bit of wine here. As I want to be fair to her. This is a message sent on November 6th, 2020. Ginni told Meadows that Trump should not concede the election, saying, quote, "It takes time for the army who's gathering for his back." Blah, blah, blah. Like, I assume that's how she talks because she's fucking insane. And another message sent on November 10th, 2020, days after the major news networks declared Biden the winner of the 2020 election, Ginni wrote to Meadows, "Help this great president stand firm, Mark. You're the leader with him who is standing for America's constitutional governance at the precipice. The majority knows Biden and the left is attempting the greatest heist in our history." Scene.
I'm always fascinated
She's
by
fucking crazy, dude. She's fucking crazy.
I'm always fascinated by what people like this choose to capitalize in these sentences because I'm such a nerd about like grammar and stuff like that. Right. So like for those who have not seen it, left is capitalized because obviously like she's talking about like the left is like a faction.
Yeah.
Heist of our history also capitalized as if like she's like, I'm going to test this out for branding. I'm going to see if Mark Meadows likes it, and then we're going to start running with this if he digs it.
Hashtag heist for our history.
That's right.
I like that she writes everything like "Make America Great Again," right? "Help this great president" is all in capital letters, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes.
I find her fascinating. There was a story. I shared this with you and Andy. Where the three of us were laughing our ass off about it. But it was a story about like how Ginni Thomas and Clarence Thomas met, and it was just like, I don't know. They met at like an
anti-affirmative action rally.
Affirmative action rally.
Right. Event is what it was. Yeah.
Right. It was like, she's like, "I hate these blacks," and he was like, "Me too," and they just started making out. But like then the story goes into how like when she brought him home to her clearly bigoted family, they were like, "Who's this N-word you're bringing home?" And she was like, "Don't worry. Like, he's one of the good ones." And they were like, "Well, luckily he's a good conservative," and all this other stuff. So it made up, like, I believe her mom or her sister said it made up for his obvious flaws of being black. It's like, yo, that's what they said. They said it out loud to a journalist, which is wild.
Meanwhile, Clarence Thomas is like, "This is fine."
Yeah, no,
I agree.
Okay. I agree. I am one of the good ones. Yeah, look, Clarence Thomas is a piece of shit. Like, he is. He's a piece of shit. He
has been for 30 plus years now at this point.
He doesn't deserve to lick the boots of Thurgood Marshall. Not even close. Not even close. It's one of the most insulting things white people have ever done in the modern era, is to replace Thurgood Marshall's seat with Clarence Thomas of all people. Fuck you. Or you could say Amy Coney Barrett replacing RBG.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Or RBG. Like, it's equally as offensive. Like, those two people were fucking pioneers, and you replace them not because of those people are conservative, just because those two people just are wildly unqualified and they suck. Like, that's it. Like, you could replace RBG with a conservative. I mean, it is what it is, but at least pick someone who's like highly qualified.
Yeah.
Like, that woman was in a cult.
Right. Instead of the woman that was advertised like, "Oh, we're only picking her because she doesn't like abortion." Like, that's literally it, guys. That's the only reason that we're doing it.
That's the only reason why she's there. She's there for one case and one case only. And then to, not to be crass about her being a woman, but then after that to just eat corporate dick. right? Like, and I would say that about a man too. But like, that's why Kavanaugh's there. He's just there to eat corporate dick too.
So it's likely that Clarence Thomas is just never going to do an interview for the rest of his life, right?
No, that's 100% true. That's 100% true. He's not. People were saying that he's going to resign. No, he's not. No, he's not. Stop writing.
He doesn't have enough shame to resign from this shit, even though he should. Shame. And that's the thing too. Like Democrats are out here. Like some Democrats. I don't mean to cast a wide net. Some folks are out here calling like, you need to impeach Clarence Thomas, and I'm like, for
How?
what? Like you do realize that you can't just say like these things and magically like Clarence Thomas disappears from the bench. Like as we saw with the whole Trump situation, like there's a little bit more involved with impeaching somebody.
Yeah, and like AOC came out and said, you need to resign or you're going to get impeached. Hey, I hear you, sister. I love you, but you ain't got the votes, yo. You don't have the votes.
Honestly, I think resignation is the thing you call for, and if that gets you to recusal, then I feel like you have to. That's probably as good as you're going to get. That's probably as good as you're going to get.
You're not going to get him to do, like, you're not going to
the right thing. Yeah,
you're not. Well,
and he won't do the right thing on his own.
No, but you won't impeach him. You don't have the votes. And look, I get her point that you got to say you're going to do it so people know you mean business. But it's also gassing people up to just be disappointed.
Yeah,
like come out and talk reality and say like. And again, I get AOC's point, but like come out and talk reality and be like, look, we can't impeach him. We don't have the votes. We already know the Republican Party is going to support this guy no matter what. But what we're asking for is at least, well, I wouldn't even say we're asking for anything. I would be like, we're calling this shit out. Call it out. Yeah. At least call it out. But stop but again, you're wasting everybody's time with an impeachment. It's a waste of time.
Like if you were to impeach him now, it would literally be the definition of a fishing expedition. Like you don't have anything to show that he was aware of the fact that his wife might be involved in this stuff and that he voted against that because of that. Right. So you can't go into an impeachment and be like, we're looking for the evidence. Like that's not how it works. Like an impeachment is like an indictment. Like you have to have something that you come to the table with before you can go.
Right. And an impeachment, unlike an indictment, is not easy. You can indict someone. You can indict a ham sandwich, as they say. Like this is not an easy one. And again, you will just gas people who don't really know the procedure up. So then they get really disappointed and then turn around and blame you. Like it's
I can't remember who said it, honestly. Like, if you really want to possibly get results from Clarence Thomas, you don't put pressure on Clarence Thomas. You put pressure on John Roberts.
I agree with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Roberts actually wants a court that's actually not a laughingstock. Too late. But he's trying to make it.
I'm about to say the ship sailed on that many years ago.
Yes. Update to a previous story. Mea Culpa podcast host Michael Cohen, shit mafia lawyer Michael Cohen. Yo, my connection to that guy is weird. Oh my God. I have a connection to Michael Cohen, like a very personal connection to Michael Cohen. I so want to set up an interview with him. I so do, but I also don't ever want to talk to Michael Cohen. But I don't
think he would make it through the interview. We drag him too hard.
Yeah, no. But I feel like he might be a pretty fun interview. Like at this point, I think he'd be like, fuck it, it's crazy, man. I feel like I feel like I'd be like, look, I'm gonna send you a bottle of scotch. Let's just like get fucking drunk and just talk about this shit. This shit would be awesome. But I also think like, dude, you were instrumental in one of the worst situations in American history. But I do actually I have an in. That I probably could talk to him.
Put it to you this way. I have thanks to your in with Michael Cohen, I had 6 degrees of separation from the former president of the United States, which is pretty cool. I gotta say.
Look, my in has met the former president of the United States, and my in said, "This guy's a fucking idiot," and he said that Donald Trump Jr. is an idiot. Like he's not a fan. So I do have an in. Which is a weird one. It's a very weird one. So here's again, Mea Culpa podcast host Michael Cohen says January 6th committee witness will reveal not one, not 2, but 3 burner phones were purchased at CVS. Cohen says that he has been in contact with this person who will testify to the House Select Committee. What did I say, dude? I told you they bought all those things at the same time. I fucking told you. They're not smart. They should have just watched The Wire. Watch the first season of The Wire, dude. It's all laid out, man. It's a criminal conspiracy. No, not these guys, man. I just buy them all at the same time. Fuck it.
That administration's not watching The Wire.
They should stop. See, if they weren't so fucking racist, they could have learned.
That's
something.
what I'm saying. Like that's the reason Trump started watching. Like what is with all the blacks on the show?
Too many
blacks.
Too many
blacks.
That guy should be James Bond, but too many other black people in this.
This is like, why am I watching this show about this Democrat city filled with crime? Look at all the crime in this Democrat city.
The shithole country.
This upsets me.
This is a shithole city. Yeah, Ross Story spoke with Cohen, who said that he has been in contact with this person. The person will reveal, according to Cohen, that they were given $400 in cash and instructed to purchase the burner phones.
$400?
They're about $100 a pop.
Really? I thought they were cheaper than that.
No, they're about
inflation's getting everything right now.
Yeah. Those phones were then, quote, delivered to 2 individuals who were engaged in conversations with Mark Meadows and others at the U.S. Capitol during January 6th coup. Dude, if they say that they got those phones and they delivered it to the people that they delivered it to, oh, you're in a world of trouble. You're in a world of trouble, dude.
It feels like the Department of Justice might want to indict Mark Meadows for contempt of Congress. I don't know. It seems like that might be something that you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah, they went to CVS.
Dude, I also enjoy how the Ginni Thomas conversations were part of the stuff that Mark Meadows voluntarily turned over to the committee. Like, as it happens, like when Clarence Thomas ruled, like it wasn't like that stuff wasn't a part of that. So like he did avoid that at least, but not that he knew. But again, like Mark Meadows, like I'm gonna show like here's these late night text messages. Like, Mark, I hope you're up. I have to talk to you at 4 a.m.
Like Ginni Thomas sending Mark Meadows a WYD. What you doing? Ugh, gross. Are you up? No. Click. Get out of here, you fucking lunatic. I'm not up. Go sleep with your impotent husband. Next up, Florida governor signs controversial law. Opponents dub the "Don't Say Gay." Piece of shit. Ron DeSantis has officially signed the bill into law. Quote, classroom instruction by school personnel or third parties on sexual orientation or gender identity may not occur in kindergarten through grade 3 or in the manner that is not age appropriate or developmentally appropriate for students in accordance with state standards. In a state that is probably most famous for bath salts, I feel like this law is ridiculous. Not
only that,
kids younger than 3rd grade can absolutely find out about gender identity. That's not ridiculous at all.
Well, also apparently, like it's ridiculously poorly written because I saw an exchange between like when the bill was being debated or whatever between a state senator, a Democratic state senator, and someone that was in charge of writing the bill, and basically he's like I'm a heterosexual male, cisgender male. He's like, so I have a gender identity and I have a sexual orientation.
Right.
So you're telling me that if I was in school and I told first graders that, my wife bought me a present, that the way this law is written, like I could be in trouble. And the guy was like, the way that it is written, yes, you could potentially be like in trouble for this.
Here's the thing. The bill is stupid, the law is stupid. It's written for stupid people to feel a certain way because they are incapable of living in a world with other people who don't act the way they do. Or, have the same interests as them.
Or believe the same things that they believe.
Or believe the same things that they do. It is bizarre to me. Like, we can't talk about gay people existing. They do exist. You can't talk about gender identity. When do you think that kids start to figure themselves out? Like, you think it's 8th grade? No, No. Like, girls decide or understand that they like boys or understand that they like girls or both way earlier than like 8th grade, guys. Like 3rd grade, they know. They're well aware of their sexuality at that point. Now, as they get older, that might become more nuanced and stuff like that, right? Like whether they're, turns out they're bi or something like that. Like maybe. But for the most part, it's always weird when I hear straight people. I am straight, but it's always weird when I hear straight people say like, we can't confuse these young kids and stuff like that. Like, dude, were you confused when you were a kid? Or did you just like one day you were like, oh, girls, I like that. Like, yeah, your brain just goes, yeah, dude, that's what I like. And it is what it is. And, like as you get older, some people go a little bit more nuanced than that and everything else. And that's totally fine. I don't give a fuck. But for the most part, you know what you like pretty early on. So there's okay to talk about it. Also, there are kids who are trans, and it's better to have a conversation about that shit earlier than later when they start getting treated like garbage. Mm-hmm. Right? Like I just don't, it's fundamentally, this perspective is fundamentally like, ironically, it's fundamentally childish, right? Like if we don't say it, then it doesn't exist. Like, no, gay people still exist. Trans people still exist. Bi people still exist. Like they still exist. Straight people still exist. You not talking about it doesn't do anything. It's just delaying the inevitable. Like again, if you live in Florida, but you can move. Just fucking move.
Yeah, seriously.
Just fucking move. If you can.
Meanwhile,
oh, by the way, there's an update to this story, but go ahead. I have an.
I wonder if our updates could be the same. Going to be the same thing because, like, obviously Disney was famously pushed into denouncing this bill.
Yes.
After they wanted to not do that for a while, and so DeSantis,
the CEO of Disney, didn't want to do it. The new CEO.
Correct.
Everyone else in Disney was like, what are you doing?
Yeah, the rank and file absolutely did. The CEO was like, well, I don't want to wade in the political waters. And they're like, no, we're going to do that. Actually,
no, that's we're Disney. We have the biggest swing our giant Mickey Mouse dick into politics.
Well, and meanwhile, like so Ron DeSantis today said, quote, that Disney crossed a line when they denounced the "Don't Say Gay" bill. I don't know if people listening are aware. I don't know if Ron DeSantis is aware that Disney just happens to be the largest employer in the state of Florida and carries a fair amount of political clout, kind of like how Walmart dictates, the policy of Arkansas politics.
Right.
Like Disney kind of does the same with Florida politics. So if Ron DeSantis wants to pick a fight with the biggest employer in his state, that's a bold strategy. Let's see how it works out for him.
Hey, look, I kind of love it. I'd love to see Disney go to war with the Republican Party. You're not going to beat Disney, yo. You're not going to beat Disney, yo. Like, they got more money. They have more influence. Like, they just have to put out, all they got to do is just put out a movie, an animated movie, with a guy who looks like Ron DeSantis, who's the villain, versus some gay kids. Guess what? You lost. Like, you lost, yo. You're immortalized as a piece of shit. Like, you just are. And look,
well, and they won't?
Okay.
And that's the thing that's also frustrating, as we've talked about in the show many times before. Like, part of this bill is Republicans are wackos. The other part of this bill is Ron DeSantis just putting it into his fucking Q portfolio to raise his profile so that he can stash it for a future presidential bid.
That's all it is. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Here's an update to that story. And it's got two people's names in it that you may be surprised to hear. Marjorie Taylor Greene and Alex Jones.
I hear this update, actually. Yeah, go ahead.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, moron from Georgia, decided during a live broadcast on Wednesday that she will begin working on a federal legislation mirroring Florida's ban on talking about sexuality with younger students. Conspiracy theorist and general spicy food enthusiast, Alex Jones, asked Greene about Florida's educational restrictions that critics have labeled the Don't Say Gay bill or law. Are you going to write a bill? Are you going to try to introduce a bill that got the power to do it? We would all get behind it, a bill to pull federal funding out of the schools, the sexualized children. Talking about children's gender identity is not sexualizing children. Again, every day I hear these people talk, I just assume these people are all pedophiles.
But it's a tactic though. Like
course,
they're trying to associate that the LGBTQ community with pedophilia. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Right, just like nutcases believe that Zoe Kravitz is a pedophile now.
Yeah, and let me guess, Marjorie Taylor Greene's response was unga bunga, be right, Bill.
That's not fair. What she actually said was absolutely 100%. I will meet with my team right after this interview and we will work on it, Alex, because I will do anything I can to protect kids. Unga bunga, me right, Bill. That's what she actually.
I'm glad you provided the full quote for context.
I feel like we're obligated. Gosh, she is such a fucking cave woman. So dumb.
Like, has there ever been a piece of federal legislation that can fit on one page? Because I feel like that's about the capability that her and her team will have in her to write a bill.
Yo, who's on her team? Who's on her team? Like, who's on her team? Her, Fred Flintstone, Barney. Like, get the fuck out of here.
And I also like how they're like, oh, we're gonna write this bill. I'm like, that's cool. Who's gonna put it up for a vote exactly? Do you understand how the fucking House works?
They don't.
I guess you're gonna save it in your back pocket until next year when maybe you win it and can introduce it, and it still gets voted down. Like, okay,
like yo,
that's cool, I guess.
Who's gonna You really think that you're gonna get this passed? By the way,
You think even if you guys do take over both chambers of the House that you're going to be able to get this passed with a veto-proof majority that when it gets knocked down by the president,
dude,
it's going to get signed into law. Okay,
yeah, Joe Biden has to sign this. No, he isn't. No, he isn't. No, he's not going to do that. Joe Biden once he sees how good this bill is, because it's only one page, like he can just read it real fast. Like. He'll just be overtaken with emotion and he's like, I just gotta sign this. Like,
they're gonna put a poison pill. They're gonna put a poison pill in it for him, where it'll be like, can't talk about gender identity and sexual orientation. However, free ice cream for all the kids. And Joe Biden's like, well, I do love ice cream, so let me just go ahead and sign on the bottom line.
Screw those gay kids, man. Am I right? Like, no chocolate chip. Like, no, that's not what's gonna happen. Like, this is like. Granted, it's much more serious on the left, but this is the same as we're going to impeach Clarence Thomas. Like, no, you're not. Like, you're not. You're not. Like, at least that has some, like, real implications, and there's a real reason to do it. She's just like, yeah, Alex Jones, I'll do it because you said so, and I want to please your dumb fans because I'm a moron too. Like, this is just useless nonsense. Yeah, you're not going to do shit.
And if you want to keep the gay from getting over to your children. Make sure you go over to the InfoWars store and get these beautiful supplements ground from the bones of straight frogs. And that's the only way to protect your kids. You put a spoonful of this in their chocolate milk every morning. You stir it in. Not only does it taste delicious, but it makes sure that they stay straight all the time for the rest of their lives. A spoonful a day. You'll be as straight as an arrow. You're not going to be gay. The frogs are gay. Your kids won't be gay with the supplement from InfoWars.
$29.99.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to duck this deposition from the Sandy Hook case. I'm sick
for 4 days. For 4 days, dude. He said he ducked those depositions, and he was like, "Yo, I was sick," and they were like, the judge was like, "But you weren't sick enough to do your multi-hour show." Like, what the fuck? Yo, I'm not an idiot. Like, I'm not an idiot. Like, come on, man. He offered the families $120,000 a piece.
Oh, that's it, huh?
Yeah, the families were like, eat my balls. Like, fuck off. No, we're not taking your bullshit money. No. They're out to destroy him, and I think they should.
I can't wait until they do levy the settlement against him, and it's going to be in the millions of dollars. Then you can watch him panhandle on his show every day. These families with these kids, they're the only reason they sued me is trying to shut down InfoWars, trying to keep you from hearing the truth. So if everyone out of you listening, everyone out there can donate $20,000.
$20,000. If you could donate, I don't know if you've
seen the settlement bill, but I'm losing my shirt. I'll lose my shirt involuntarily this time. Normally, I like to walk around as a virile man, a pure specimen of the species. Walk around without a shirt on, but they're taking the shirt off my back. So I need 20 grand from each of you out there listening. I know you can afford it. Times
some
are
of
tough
them will
right
give
now.
it up. Some of them will give it up.
I know they will.
They will. They will give it up. I hope they levy just an insane amount of money, and not just levy that shit. Take everything. Take it. I'd be like, okay, you owe us $50 million or whatever. Cool. We're just taking your studio. Just take the shit. Take it and sell everything, dude. Reduce that guy down to a shitty podcast with one microphone. Like, reduce him down to nothing.
In like a shed, like he has to record in a shed,
like Bill O'Reilly,
like a cardboard box as a table.
Yeah, I mean that's where Bill O'Reilly ended up. Does he still have a podcast? Because that shit was whack.
He does. Somehow he's still able to sell books, but yeah, I don't think anyone's listening to his fucking podcast, so.
Which is wild to me. All right, let's get to. Come on, look, you guys have been waiting for this. Who doesn't want to hear Tad Cadworth talk about orgies and coke? So we're gonna play this clip. I want to play this clip all the way through, and then we're gonna come back. We will be adding our commentary during it, but I do want to play this clip all the way through, because there is some gold here. Like we talk about the orgy, he talks about the orgies, he talks about the cocaine thing. But then he talks about some other stuff that I think is really an interesting. It's actually much more interesting. I mean, the cocaine and the orgies is super interesting, but this is also very interesting what he says after that.
So I heard a former president that we had in the.
Let me set this up. He's on a podcast with a very weird fucking background, but he's on a podcast and the host, who sounds like a person who's never left the Midwest or the South, which was weird. This guy there, he brings up House of Cards and he says, "Hey, have you ever seen House of Cards?" And old Ted is like, "Yeah, hell yeah, I've seen House of Cards. I am a human being, like, of course." And he's like, "Look, is Washington like House of Cards, or is that like super crazy far fiction?" So that's what old Ted Cadworth is addressing.
90s was asked the question about this, and he gave an answer that I thought was so true. And he said, the only thing that's not accurate in that show is that you could never get a piece of legislation about education passed that quickly.
And everything else is good.
Aside from that, I mean, the sexual perversion that goes on in Washington, I mean, being kind of a young guy in Washington, where the average age is probably 60 or 70, and I look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to, like, well, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get-together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that, there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove addiction in our country. And then you watch them do a key bump of cocaine.
I'm just enjoying the host, like, as he's like saying this thing that is like kind of shocking. Like, the host, I don't think is actually listening to him, because he's just kind of like nodding his head on, like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, orgies.
Totally. Makes sense for sure.
I love orgies. I love a good orgy. Dude, this dude is giving up like serious fire, man. Like, pay attention. All right, here we go. Keep going.
On the movement to try and remove, addiction in our country, and then you watch them do, a key bump of cocaine right in front of you, and it's like, wow, this is wild. And
no one who hasn't done a key bump of cocaine calls it a key bump of cocaine.
That's a perfect, like, if you're watching on video where Jay pause the video, is at a point where Madison Cawthorn looked like he just did a key bump of cocaine, honestly. So.
Or several. Oh, that's the image for the show. Jesus Christ. No, guys, I've never done cocaine. Sure. Right. Okay.
Then there's also kind of the whole espionage aspect to what goes on in Washington of, so many people trade in secrets, and there's a currency to secrets. And so it's wild. And then, there's members of the media, the journalists, who kind of will keep nasty stories about you or about other people on a shelf. And then if you're about to kind of speak out against something they don't want you to, they'll come out and say, well, we're about to drop the story of when, 17 years ago you did X, Y, and Z. And you don't want us to drop that story, do you? So we're going to bully you back into this position.
Practically, let's say that all of a sudden I was going into office. By the way, I have no political aspirations, zero. And people are always like, John, run for office. It'll be, nope, absolutely not. I'd like to support people that have that calling. I have no desire to do that. But let's, as a little thought experiment, I am just elected, Congress, Senate, whatever, and I get in there and I go through my orientation and I have my good values and stuff and I stand for something like many other before. How does that slippery slope actually get in front of me? Our current president, he's been in public service for 50 years at a certain salary, which is kind of like, it's good, but it's not great. You can't become a lavish multi-millionaire with all these different houses and the math doesn't work. Like the battery example, that was a real example,
That's
right?
a real example. Yeah, no, right before we announced we were going to add about 700,000 electric vehicles to our federal fleet, I noticed, because if you go to, I think it's ceowatchlist.org, you can see the trades that publicly traded companies, CEOs, and anybody in the C-suite are making, or what all trades members of Congress are making. And so we all kind of monitor that just to see what's going on. And I noticed a lot of people in the majority party were buying stocks that had to do with some kind of battery, some kind of technology for electric vehicles. And then wouldn't you know it, about a month or two later, it was then announced we're adding 700,000 electric vehicles to the fleet, and then all those stock prices just jumped, whether you're investing in lithium mines, whether you're investing in the people who actually manufacture batteries, whether you're investing directly into companies that make electric cars. And so that's a way people can make money, is through this kind of version of insider trading that people can do. But we are limited on our ability to have any kind of earned income. You can have passive income, but you can't have any earned income. And so you can't sit on a board and get a salary for it or anything like that. But what you can do is you can have your spouse put as chairman of this company. You can have your spouse saying that she's going to be, or he or she is going to be a consultant to this firm. And next thing you know, they're getting a paycheck for really not doing anything.
Could your son?
Your son? Oh, yeah.
See what
Nailed it. Except for the guy that you support has done nothing but put his son and his daughter in positions of power via nepotism. Like it's not so much a nailed it as you think it is. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Like,
yeah. Also, like
Trump.
the whole before they got to the Biden part, which is what he was, I guess, like leading into there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Republicans are like screaming at the fucking radio, like, why are you giving away the dark Madison Cawthorn? Like, no shit.
Yeah. But I left in, I mean, look, the cocaine and the orgy thing is super interesting, especially from the party that's like the moral superiority party. Because he's not talking about Democrats, because Democrats aren't inviting Tad Cadworth to a goddamn thing. So he's definitely talking about Republicans, which is why Kevin McCarthy like went and saw him the other day and was like, shut the fuck up about those blowjob parties that Matt Gaetz keeps throwing with underage girls. I do believe, like, I could totally see, and maybe I'm giving him a little too much credit, I could totally see Madison Cawthorn, or Cawthorn, or whatever the fuck his name is. I've been calling him Tad for so long.
It's his name on the show.
It's his name from now on. But I could totally see him being invited to like an orgy type of thing and being like, no, that's not my cup of tea. The cocaine part? Oh, buddy, you don't know what a key bumper cocaine is unless you're doing it. Knock it the fuck off. I didn't know what that was. I never
heard that term until Tad illuminated us.
Yeah, I was like,
I can tell you that, so. Well,
you just see somebody do it, and the other guy's like, okay, I don't know what that is actually. Like, what is a key bump of cocaine?
So, I Madison Cawthorn strikes me as a guy who's an enormous bullshitter, which, he's a politician, so of course that's not too much of a surprise. But I do believe that like he's the type of guy that he wants to, like, when he's in interviews like this, wants to make someone, like the interviewer, happy. So like he's willing to like dish a little bit more than someone else might, that's a little bit more media savvy, just because he wants to be like a gracious guest. And again, it's so funny, like he's talking about the lithium like battery thing or whatever, and I guess what he's saying is true, but at the same time, it's just like, I'm pretty sure that like renewable energy just in general is a pretty decent thing to invest in right now, considering the way the world is shifting. Like,
but
I'm sure.
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, you're good.
No. What I was going to say is, I don't think he's lying about that. That's why I left it in. I think he's absolutely 100% right about it. Right. So I actually give him credit for pointing it out and talking about it. Here's the part that I don't. This is why I don't trust these motherfuckers about as far as I can throw them. I noticed the majority party is doing that. Did you take a look at the minority party in that case? Because I bet in the same fucking meetings, those guys were getting rich. It's not like your party doesn't have or had the former wife of the New York Stock Exchange who got turfed out because she was doing this exact same thing to a point where people were fucking noticing, dude. Like, knock it off. Like, this is the thing about conservatives that really pisses me off. When they call out Democrats for shit that they also do, but they try to pretend like they don't do it, I'm like, don't do that. Because we all know.
Yeah, last I checked, your party does. Yeah, last I checked, the last Congress people that were accused and or convicted of either insider trading or misuse of campaign funds were all Republicans. Like, there's no Democrats that are fucking being called out for this shit.
Right.
Like,
they tried to call Nancy Pelosi out about it, and it didn't really work because it was like Nancy Pelosi bought stock in Amazon. I'm like, they're like, right before everybody got sent home for the pandemic, it's like, it was Amazon. It was Amazon, That's a good stock to buy anytime you have money. It's just it's fucking Amazon. Everyone uses it, so it's I don't know that that's necessarily definitive, but I'm not mad at you pointing it out. But like, pointing out like lithium batteries, like, yeah, they probably did take that insider information and use it. Here's an idea. Why don't you support the law to not allow people to buy stocks who are working in Congress?
Yes, that sounds to me like Elizabeth Warren found a co-signee in the House that can hop onto this legislation.
Because that's exactly how I would throw it in his face. You made this point on that podcast, and you're absolutely right. Cool, come sign on to this. Well, I mean, I don't want to do that. Yeah, exactly. Shut the fuck up. Because if you're not willing to actually work to fix the problems, then what good are you? So I just found that clip to be interesting. That guy's a loser, though. I just want to point that out. That guy's a loser. Like,
yeah, completely.
He's a loser. He's like, let me turn my hat backwards. Like, all right, dude. Like, remember that time that guy got married to a Russian agent? They brought that dude over to Russia to be in some CrossFit games. And he was like, I'm in a wheelchair. And they told him, well, you could just do pull-ups. And he was like, all right, cool. This makes sense. And then he went over there.
And then it just so happens that just a week ago, he called Vladimir Zelensky a thug in a recorded interview while a war is going on between Russia and Ukraine. Weird. So he got called to the principal's office today. Apparently, Kevin McCarthy is more mad about this than anything he's been mad about ever. Forget speaking at white supremacy, meetings, forget your party organizing a presidential coup. No. Going on and talking about orgies and coke parties in the Republican Party. Is a bridge too far. One of the things that Kevin McCarthy said after this meeting was with Tad Cadworth, where he said he was exaggerating some of these things, is that he doesn't even know what cocaine is.
Whoa. Wait, what? Yes. That's not a real quote. That's not a.
It's a real. Yes.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
I saw it.
Kevin McCarthy said he doesn't even know what cocaine is.
No, that Madison Cawthorn doesn't know what cocaine is, which is an insane thing to say.
Look, I don't like to use this particular language on this show, as I don't have a racial backup. Nigga, get out of my face, yo! Like, you get out of my face, yo! That's bullshit. He doesn't know what cocaine is. He just said a key bump of cocaine. He said that shit. That shit rolled off his tongue. Like, all right. Like,
so meanwhile, Kevin McCarthy comes out and says this shit, and like Tad's not saying anything, and then like Roger Stone comes in like a couple hours later, being like, he's not exaggerating at all, like he knows exactly what he's talking about. I've got proof.
Wait, who said that?
Just like Roger Stone.
Jesus Christ.
It's the dumbest fight, but you know what? I'm here for a little bit of mess. This will be really fun to watch unfold over the coming days.
Look, Roger Stone knows.
Roger Stone was probably the one that set out the orgy fight. The Tad Cadworth. Come on.
Yeah, he was like, "Come on, bro. See my Nixon tattoo? Like, come on, lick it up, lick it." Like, I don't want to. I am uncomfortable here. Okay, that's the end of the free portion for this week's episode of Look Forward. Make sure you go to lookforwardshow.com/premium. Sign up for premium content. It's only $5 a month or $50 for the full year.